Hi, I'm Doc Palmer. I'm the author of McGraw-Hill's Maintenance Planning and Scheduling Handbook. Because the fundamental concepts of planning and scheduling are unusual, they give us an opportunity for a competitive edge. We simply have to run planning as a Deming cycle where we expect the plans not to be perfect. And our objective is to make them better over the years. And scheduling, we want to fully load weekly schedules to defeat Parkinson's law, to achieve the true purpose of scheduling, which is to help us complete more work than normal. Most people underload the schedule to have high schedule compliance, but then they don't defeat Parkinson's law and they don't complete more work than normal and they have failed. Parkinson's law is the amount of work assigned expands to fill the amount of time available. Today, let's discover some truths about planning and scheduling, particularly why we would use work orders, but then more particularly about some of the codes that we use with those. First of all, we have to use work orders to keep track of the work. We don't want to just fix things when they break. People call us, we send somebody out there to fix us. People call us, we send somebody out there to fix that. Yes, we can do that without work orders. But we want to have a lot of little items to take care of. We need to do this monthly route. We need this weekly route. We need to change this oil on a routine basis. We need to do oil analysis on that. We need to check the vibration on this. The vibration has said there's a little problem. It can wait for a while. But we don't want to forget about it because then it will break and people will yell at us and then we'll have to fix it. We want to do maintenance, doing all those little things to keep things from breaking where we have to restore. And we need individual discrete work orders to keep track of that. We also need individual discrete work orders to put them in order of importance. This is more important than that work order, more important than that work order, more important than that work order. And then we need individual work orders to be able to schedule. We can bundle these work orders together when we work on that. We need to come up with a full batch of work for each person. Yes, we can keep everybody busy without using individual work orders. But you can't fully load schedules without discrete work orders. And we have to fully load the weekly schedule to defeat Parkinson's law, to achieve the true purpose of scheduling that we talked about. And then, how are we doing on the plans? Well, this plan could have been better. We need to add this and that. This schedule could have been better. We need to do this and that. The schedule allowed us to do this. We know how we're doing on the schedule. We're not achieving perfect schedule compliance. We know that because we're using individual work orders. So to analyze the planning and scheduling. And then how are we doing in maintenance? Where's our biggest problem? Where are we spending the most money? How would you know that without individual discrete work orders? So fairly obvious for a top running maintenance organization, you need discrete work orders. You just can't charge everything to the maintenance shop or not even worry about that. We're paying for mechanics. Why do we need to use work orders? They're busy. But we want to go beyond busy to completing a certain amount of work, which will be more work than we normally complete, which will include the little things to keep things from breaking. And that's blah, 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 all of maintenance. So I want to talk about the codes. The most obvious code and a good place to start would be the status codes. A new work order would come in some various status at your plant. I would just call it waiting for approval. It's a new work request if you have a different system, or it's an unapproved work order, but it's a new work order. We want to get that work order to a status of complete. It's a new work request, we've completed it. That's what we want. Well, we want to get it planned so we can take advantage of what we learned over the years. We want planners to check the files. Hey, this time let's make sure we don't make the mistake we made last time. Let's take 2 gaskets and a longer ladder. Okay, so we want to get it to a planned status. Whatever you call it, we'll just call it here waiting to schedule. So we want the unapproved work order to go to a planned status. Now you may have an intermediate status of approved, where it goes through a morning meeting or something. And then if it can't be planned, there are excuses. One obvious excuse is it's waiting for parts. Why can't you finish planning it? We're waiting for these parts to come in. Or why can't you schedule it? And then also a management of change or a waiting on engineering status. So a work request comes in to us in maintenance, and it's somebody wanting us to change a gate valve to a globe valve, or that's what we think we should do to properly plan that. We don't get into engineering in the planning itself. That's a part of our reliability engineering function of our company. That needs to go to the management of change. You can't just plan the job to change it from a gate valve to a globe valve. Will that mess up our system? That needs to go through an approval process. And then this job here, we planned it, but it's going to cost a lot more than we thought. We're not sure what we want to do. Okay, we'll just have a generic excuse code of hold. It's on hold for something. And there might be other particular excuses, statuses that you have. So it's a new work request. We want to get it planned. Why can't we get it planned? And then we'll have a status here of scheduled, if we use that in our computer system. So, and conceptually, theoretically, I like to have a very minimal unplanned status. We've got to get those work orders planned so we can fill up the schedule, which is going to drain our backlogs. And if we don't get the work planned, we'll be doing it on an unplanned basis. The plans can't be perfect. We've got to get them through the system. So let's say we end up with 1,000 ready-to-go work orders. They're planned, they're waiting on schedule. And just coincidentally, we'll say we scheduled 100 work orders. Those are, that's a fully loaded schedule of 100%, but it just happens to be 100 work orders for this discussion. And let's say we complete 100 work orders, but it might not be all of those work orders. There might be in progress at the end of the week. We're not going to finish them this week, but they're in progress. Now there's 10 work orders, and we completed 100. Well, how could that be? Well, it might have been out of the scheduled work orders, we completed 50, which should be schedule compliance of 50%. But we actually completed 100 work orders. New work orders, emergency work orders came in. It made sense. Parts came in for a job we wanted to go ahead and finish that wasn't on the schedule. And then you might have a status of close, where after 90 days your system automatically closes it out and there are no outstanding parts on that. So those are the basic statuses. You might have some in between there. Now, the 50 that we completed and the 10 we put in progress, and it might have been out of the 100, let's say those were still in progress. That means there's 40 work orders that are still scheduled that didn't get started. So those have to be flipped back to waiting to schedule. If you use a paper system, it's just a matter of handing back the work orders, or a command in your computer system where you flip those back to waiting to schedule. They don't automatically get scheduled for the next week. They don't automatically just roll over. The next status I want to talk about is priority. If you've been with me long, you know I like the 5 levels that I grew up with. A 0 is an emergency. It's now. A 1 is urgent. It should be done this week. A 2 is routine. It can wait though till next week. A 3 is a routine. It can wait for, let's say, this month. And a 4 is routine, but it can wait longer than a month. It might be something you don't want to forget about. It might be something for a project that can't be done right away. Now, some people say that they have 5 levels. They have safety, 1, 2, 3, and outage. Well, safety and outage are not really priorities. You might have a safety where we're exceeding or about to exceed our environmental permits right now. Well, that's obviously an emergency. But there's a slight blemish on one of the handrails. It needs to be painted sometime this year, ground out and painted. It's not a big deal. Well, that might be a 3 or 4. Even though it's a safety issue, it's on a handrail. And it could be environmental. You have, we're exceeding or about to exceed our environmental permits. Okay, well, that's a 0. We're going to have to take care of that right now. Or it could be, here's an item, hey, if we do this, we could keep more alligators out of our cooling ponds. But there are no alligators in the cooling ponds right now, and it's the middle of the winter, so it's not a big deal. They're not even in North Florida. They're kind of moving further south. Or it might be in an area where, because your cooling ponds are warm, that's when the alligators are moving. And it's in the summer, they're too hot, so the alligators have gone out to the rest of the river and area. So it just depends. But that could be a 3 or a 4. Or it could be an emergency. If you got a bunch of alligators in there right now, let's go ahead and take care of this. Or you could mitigate it and write a new work order to do a bigger fix. So I think we need a priority type selection. That would be safety, environmental, reliability related, efficiency related, which would be heat rate at a power station where I work. And if it's not one of these, it's just G for general, because this is a required field. So priority type would be different. And then outage is not a priority, and it's not really a status. It's a unit condition code. Or I also call those outage codes. Same thing. A 0 would be condition. A 0 would be, you can work on this anytime you want. You might have to get clearance. So clearance means you need lockout, tag out or not to work on it, or whether you need a permit to work on it, issues like that. That's not necessarily an outage condition. This is, we're not making product. 0, yeah, you can do that. We won't lose product. It's on a backup strainer, on a backup pump. We can bypass that system, perhaps put the unit more on risk. A 2 and then a 3. A 3 is for the big overhaul that you have maybe once a year, once every 5 years. You might call it a turnaround or a major outage. And then a 2 is a short notice outage. We say short notice outage work so that we can have snow in Florida. It's something where you don't need a major outage. Doesn't have to wait for the big planned outage to do it. It's a little thing, a boiler tube leak. We're going to bring the unit down. We don't have to bring it down this week. We'll just truck in water. We're going to make a big plume of extra water vapor out of our chimney. But this Friday at midnight, when everybody's finished washing their dishes, nobody needs electricity, we're going to bring the unit down. We're going to bring it down for 48 hours. We're coming up on Monday morning, midnight Sunday. You got 48 hours to do anything you want to do because we're bringing the unit down for this boiler tube leak. So that was an outage code 2 for that. But there are a lot of other little things you've been working on that you can quickly replace that pump, but you're going to have to have the unit out of service. So it's kind of waiting for an outage. And then, hey, the unit came down right now. That would be a 1, which would be a forced outage. We don't like those at all. And then we actually use our priority system. Oh, by the way, we also have I'm going to erase this clearance code here so I can add another outage code of question mark of unsure. That would be somebody writes a work request. We don't know if it needs an outage or not. That's something we need to investigate right away. This is a required field, so we want to investigate those right away. So this would be any time. Be routine, normal maintenance, or it may be urgent work, but it's not bringing the unit down. Now, we use the priority system different for outage work because urgent this week, it's pretty important, but we're not going to have an outage this week. So what we do is these outage codes 1, 2, and 3 mean, look, when we bring the unit down, it's a must. We're not coming back until we finish this. So that would obviously be a forced outage. But it might be the next time we bring the unit down, we're going to do some of this outage work without fail. It cannot wait, on and on and on. An outage, a priority code 2 is preferred. Look, if we bring the unit down, we would really like to do this work. Let's talk about it, see if we can negotiate the time. And then 3 would mean if time. Look, when the unit comes down, would like to do this short notice outage item. It's not a big deal if we don't do it, but we'd like to do it if we could. If we don't, we'll just catch it on the next outage. So those are the outage codes. Let me see if I missed anything I want to talk about today. Party type. That's probably a good session for today. What we'll do is next time we'll talk about work types. They seem fairly simple, but there's some little tricks to them. You can make them really useful. And if you don't know your work type, you're actually putting yourself in danger. But thank you today for letting me be a part of your maintenance family, and God bless, and we'll see you next time.